Thank you, and welcome to the Karen Mitches podcast. Today we have Ryan Beverage.
Hello.
How are you doing, Ryan?
Yeah, good. Just, humaning.
Just what?
Being a human,
Just humaning. I like it. So last night was the ice storm that did not happen.
Not here. No.
No.
Yeah, I'm in touch with this girl that I've been seeing who's been sending me all sorts of stuff about her place being flooded and the lights being off, and it sounded fun initially for her. I think she was in some sort of pub in the dark situation where they just had it illuminated by candles and stuff, and my first thought was, I kind of wish I was there too. And then later on showed me like her flooded room. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's glad I'm not now. So.
Yeah, the candlelit bar sounds romantic.
Hell yeah. It's like old school, just sip some whiskey. Lovely stuff.
So are you used to this kind of weather, the dreary?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's not so common here, is it? But yeah, in England, it's an island, isn't it? So it's like that all the time. And it gets even more extreme if you go to Scotland. Like, I did Edinburgh years ago, and I was there for like the Fringe Festival, and I was there for a whole month, and I think it rained every day of that month. Like, even if it started with sunny skies in the morning, by the evening it was always just looking crap and rainy.
That's a lot to handle.
Yeah, man. I don't know how the Scots do it.
So I know we talked about this, like, I think we talked about this the night I met you. Like, we met out doing comedy. But I want to talk about on my show. Can you tell my audience a bit about, like, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival?
What about my experience of it, or just what it is?
What it is.
Yeah, so it's the biggest comedy festival in the world, and yeah, there's thousands of shows all going on in Edinburgh in Scotland, which is a beautiful city with like a castle in the middle, and it's got ye olde buildings and that kind of thing. And yeah, some of the comedy I saw in Edinburgh was better than anything I've seen in any other situation. Like, people doing really creative things like puppetry, a guy doing stuff that's projector based. I saw 3 shows from the guy who's now well known because of Baby Reindeer, the TV show.
Yes.
So like one of his shows, one show of the Fringe, and I saw it and it deserved it, and it was in this like tiny little place, like 50 capacity, and it was very arty. He was running on a treadmill for half the show. It was absurd. It was like running like 12k a show or something. And yeah, I think he had his own therapy sessions within the show that he'd covertly recorded, and then he had like eyebrows stuck upside down, like on his chin, and then turned the camera around and sort of reenacted it. It was bizarre, but also like really, really funny. Like, that show was funnier than Baby Reindeer. I think he more lent into the theatre with Baby Reindeer. But the first show was all about, him getting, basically taken advantage of by this sort of guy, which, obviously that comes into the show. But that was what the entirety of the show before was about.
Like, he was ripped off by a guy?
No. No, he was raped by a guy.
Oh, like, so, which that's part of what gets...
Yes, it's explored halfway through Baby Reindeer, but that was what the entirety of the show before was about. And then they had all the therapy sessions reacting to that and talking about his sex addiction. And yeah, it was only that Baby Reindeer got into the stalker part. I think that must have happened after.
The Fringe show was, like, legitimately funny.
Very funny.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, no, he sort of makes it out like he's a terrible comic, but actually he was like an excellent comic.
Yeah, because that's what I got from watching Baby Reindeer, because you see him at the beginning and he's moved to London and he's trying to make it.
Well, he was struggling, but everyone does struggle there for a while.
Yeah.
It's a real rat race. I found it hard to deal with, and I'd imagine the Canadians that go over to England will find it harder than they might expect. Yeah, there's like so much talent, and I think you have to start producing your shows and jamming it up that way. Just going on other people's shows, I don't think cuts the mustard. It's a dog eat dog world,
Yeah, I think, I could see that, because people here have moved to Toronto, and this is the big city for us, but London's like a whole other level.
Yeah, I mean, the ceiling is definitely higher, but the Canadians do, they see you do well on a show and they'll reward you by putting you on shows. And I felt like I was doing well on lots of things and nobody was putting me on anything. So I prefer the Canadian scene to that.
Yeah.
To that extent. It's more tight-knit in a way.
Yeah.
It's very disparate, London. You go to a few shows and you'll see all different people at all of them. So many different circles.
So I guess when I think of London, like, and comedy, I think of like Mae Martin and Catherine Ryan, who are both from Canada.
Big fan of Mae Martin.
Nice.
Saw some of Mae Martin's Edinburgh shows and honestly stood out as some of the best that I've ever seen.
Because she's a Canadian comedian who moved to England. Both of them moved to England and then got, like they have like the Netflix special, the
True,
touring.
But I mean, she was, really going for it for years and years before that Netflix show and whatever.
Did
like
you
Mae
see
Martin.
her? You saw her before?
A bunch of times. Yeah, like she used to often be on at this cathedral show in North London, and it was like a huge grandesque thing, and it was like her and James Acaster and a few others were like on it, and it was really great. And with her stuff, I always felt like that's kind of what comedy's meant to be, like, and that stand-up is meant to be, because you really feel like you know her. You kind of you have that connection feeling. To me, stand-up comedy isn't just going and telling some jokes where like punchline is a pun. I'd much rather hear like a good story and feel that sense of like connection, feeling the humanity. And Mae like has that, I think, in spades.
And I think like before I did comedy, I always liked people who are telling stories about themselves, but it never occurred to me how hard that is to be saying real things and then also being funny.
Yeah. I mean, I think it takes a bit of time to craft that stuff. So you start with your rough copy. I went to I did a workshop once with Mae Martin. I think Mae said that the technique was to basically go and just kind of riff and record everything, and then if something worked, do it exactly the same way, because it sounds like you're saying it for the first time, because the first time it was the first time, right?
Okay.
And then you just sort of clear up the others, and if the crowd are feeling sorry for you, then pep them up a bit, because often, with some of her shows, it would go into some really heavy stuff, like about cocaine addiction or whatever, and she'd often just kind of be like, she'd almost stop the show and then go to the audience and, by the way, guys, don't worry, I'm fine, everything's good, and it would sort of allow them to laugh. And I think that kind of stuff is what comes in the editing, and it's it's quite something, seeing like the craft of that and seeing that. So you try and take bits from all of these comics, don't you? You can't be them. If I was trying to be Mae Martin, I'd just be a worse version. But you'll try and you take these little snippets, and Mae's like excellent. Yeah.
Is there anyone else you're especially a fan of?
James Acaster is just kind of that guy that seems so alternative, and yet he's so mainstream at the same time, which is quite inspiring for me, because I always felt like I was destined to be this act that only a few people would like and a lot of people wouldn't. But the fact that he's so big, I think, proves that you can make it work if you're good enough. And I love that sort of offbeat delivery, the ridiculousness of it. And he was quite key for me, because at the beginning I just liked the really dark stuff, and watching him prove that it doesn't all have to be like that. Like, sometimes we can be dark when it's the right time to be dark, but also sometimes we can just be silly and it's okay, and we can do shows and our parents will enjoy it. And that's okay. You don't have to just be like Captain Edgelord all the time.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people just get some kind of idea of what they're supposed to do, and it's always bad if you're just doing it because you're supposed to.
Well, I mean, at the beginning I was just trying to feel stuff and shock, and it was ridiculous, really. And at some stage, I wanted to get more of the love in, and I found the more of my sort of actual character I put into it, the better it got. So I started doing really dark stuff, and then when I did Edinburgh, and you do shows like every day, then after a while the curtain starts lifting, and you just inevitably more of yourself starts pouring out.
So when you were at Edinburgh, how long were you doing that for?
I think it's 25 days, the Fringe.
Oh shit.
So it's like, yeah, it's a lot of shows. And
I guess I just assume festival to me is like 3 days.
I mean, it's a real marathon. It's really hard. Like, yeah, so I'm doing Edinburgh again this year, but I'm going to do half of it this year as a kind of little test case, and I'll do the full thing maybe like next year if it goes well. But yeah, I learned a lot from that, and what I learned was even with the same material, even if it was a little bit like edgy, because I do have a slightly edgy like part of my humor, like as long as if I was sort of putting on my kind of put myself into it, come across with my cuddly self, then they bought into it way more anyway. So yeah, I think you sometimes don't be afraid to just be yourself. Like, unless you're just a complete dickhead, it's probably going to work.
Yeah. I think too, like when someone does some dark material, it's fun to know that they're also a lighthearted person, and when you get to see like the differences within them. True,
yeah. It's but yeah, before I think I was kind of coming across as just a bit of a psycho at the beginning and in hindsight. Just because I think I liked certain comics that did that. I liked like Jesselnick and beginning I liked Doug Stanhope and stuff, which is generally a sign that, life's not going very well. And yeah, I liked that pushing the boundary element, feeling like you were saying something and it was very important and blah de blah. But yeah, it's let them in, I think, and then you can take them to your weird world. You can take them further if they're on your side. So yeah, that's what I've learned over the years.
So when you were at Edinburgh the first time, like, did you have like a full, like, how long was your
No, it was
act?
20 minutes. I did it in like a 3. It was a difficult one, the original Edinburgh, because I was doing it with a girl and another friend of mine from home, and they very much didn't get on with each other, and then I sort of ended up kind of sticking up overly for my other friend, and it all just got really messy, and so it ended quite cruddy, really. And yeah, I'm quite glad that I'm doing it myself now. Yeah. It's not possible for me to fall out with anyone because
it's just you.
It's just me.
Like, you go out on stage like, I cannot perform tonight. I'm in a fight with myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's ideal, really, isn't it? Battle my own demons. So.
But I don't know. I empathize with you a lot that happened, because I don't know. There's just something about when you're trying to perform, like, you need things around you to sort of work out, and if people around, if
I want to control the variables now. Yeah. And yeah, I was young. I wasn't faultless, but yeah, you move on, you try and grow, do your own thing. So hopefully I can sort of put that whole thing to bed with this Edinburgh this year. And just...
So do you have your set for, like, how long are you going to do, and do you have it ready?
45 minutes. I'm not entirely sure. So I called the show Fuck This, I'm going to moving to Canada. Because it's going to be in England, and I'm thinking, like, play the Canadian angle for the English effectively, because a lot of us in England have thought about leaving, with sort of the government being so messed up, and with Brexit, and it's not been a brilliant place for young people at times in England, the way things have gone in recent years. So I'm hoping that will draw people through the door. But yeah, I do have some stuff that's done. For example, I think a couple of my songs are too good not to do, and I've just got to find a way of getting them in. In particular, the one about, like, I've got one about Jesus, which isn't really related to the theme at all. But I'm gonna find a way of getting that in.
What's your take on Jesus in this song?
So the premise of the song is I'm like a horny Jesus, and you got to, like, bow down to me.
Okay,
and then I, like, draw abs on myself. And it's just, like, silly, and it just comes from a very light kind of jabbing of religion, which, because religion's such an easy target that I rarely ever go there, but this one just went there, and it seems light enough and silly enough that I feel okay about it, and people enjoy it. Like, even Christian people have, like, enjoyed it.
I saw this one woman, she was doing stand-up, and she was talking about, like, this photo of Jesus in her grandmother's house, and then she starts telling you, like, that she had a crush on Jesus.
Oh, I can believe it. He looks great. Look at him. Like, look at those kind of carved abs, and you see him on them all looking all sweaty on the wall.
She did it so sweetly that you just kind of, like, I don't know why, she just got away with it. It just had that kind of feel, like, she might still be actually a religious person, but just also the comment that, photos of Jesus do depict him kind of hot.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, it's
always
also
got...
I just found it was like a white person's ideal of hot as well. Like, even though it's from the Middle East, he's like totally white for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's
he
just like
doesn't even
rugged and it's so just that occurred to me, and I sort of improvised that song originally just because somebody was saying "Thank you, Ryan" in the background, and that just made me feel really Jesus-y. And so I just started singing about Jesus, and then it just took off. So that one, I've got a song about like small town Ontario, which I probably do in terms of the once, because it feels like it makes sense.
So have you gotten to spend some time in small town Ontario?
Yeah, I've seen quite a lot of it because I came and then the pandemic happened, and then it seemed like the best thing to do was to see small town Ontario during that time, because it's like I couldn't do the big city stuff anyway.
So were you like, how were you going there? Like, were you on tour or?
No, just I have a car, joined with my brother, and we went up there just for fun. We drove all the way to Winnipeg, my brother and I, and we camped all along the way in terms of one of our trips.
Shit.
It was amazing. Like, yeah, I mean, Ontario is so beautiful when you go up north, and you got all the kind of rocky terrain with all of the mountains and stuff, and then you got the beach, and Lake Superior is a cold bitch, but boy is she beautiful. Some lovely rocks you get to pick up, and having a car full of rocks.
You're like a kid on a road trip.
Yeah,
like,
it's everywhere. I love nice rocks. I kind of always have. Yeah, since I collected rocks as a kid, so it's all going back to that childlike kind of feeling of like, oh, this is natural and it's so pretty.
When you were a kid, did you think about Canada? Were you like, that's a cool place I want to go?
Not really. I mean, I always thought it seemed like a friendly place, and yeah, and it always seems cold, doesn't it? So all you know about Canada is it's very big and very cold. It didn't occur to me when I was looking at Canada on the map that literally everything was right at the bottom of it in terms of the population.
Yeah.
You see that big landmass, and you think, wow, there must be like loads of shit there. And then you come here and there's really not that much. But the stuff that is here is great. And I love the Canadians. So yeah, I visited Canada because my brother moved here before me originally.
Is he in comedy?
No, he's in music. He's in a band called World News, and they do it's like a synth duo thing, and performs around the city. And what he does is very good. So we're sort of doing our own little things. We occasionally collaborate, like we did Flight of the Conchords, like a cover night once, and I was Brett and he was Jermaine.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah. So
that show was so important to me.
Yeah, it's a massive show. Me too. Yeah, I think it's actually probably the best in terms of the musical comedy. Well, it's probably the number one inspiration. Maybe I phrase it like that. I guess I've not seen all musical comedy, so I can't say that.
But yeah, like I don't think about musical comedy a lot because I don't make music at all. But I just think it's one of those things like people don't succeed at it often. So there's not a lot of like examples you can go like
true
of whose career you'd want. But
yeah, I mean it's often too crass,
comedy,
isn't it? Even like Lonely Island is often good, but some of it's just like rude, and I feels like the Conchords has a bit more brains to it than most of the other stuff. Even when it's like a sexy song, like something like Business Time or whatever, it's so cleverly constructed and kind of real and tragic and beautiful, and the music sounds great as well. It's like it's not like it's just comedy and the music is a bit shit. That's kind of what I want to do. I want to have music that's also good music that is funny.
And
right?
I think if you'd said to me like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a TV show, but I'm gonna sing in it," I'd be like, "Well, that won't work." But that show really did work.
It's so deadpan, isn't it? Like when they're not singing, and it's I think when I was a kid, I didn't really get it because it was so deadpan. But I watched it again recently, and it's so smart. It's so funny. Like I mean, also those guys blew up at Edinburgh as well. Like Edinburgh is such a fertile ground.
So they came from New Zealand, but they
did Edinburgh. Yeah, I think that's how they were known. Yeah, I didn't see them though. I think it was a bit before I started going. Yeah, but
Yeah.
And Rhys Darby as well has done his own stand-up. You know, the guy who plays their manager. Is it Murray? Yeah.
He is that doesn't surprise me at all.
And I think it was really weird.
Like, he's just fucking good.
Yeah. It's such. They've really been impressive, actually. I think because they've sort of brought New Zealand humour to the world, to the mainstream, and I don't think like What We Do in the Shadows or whatever would be around without that first.
No,
it sort of introduced everyone to that weird deadpan-y New Zealand thing. It's like even more deadpan than British, you know. It's
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, but it's weird because when you think of deadpan, I don't know, like I they're so sweet and like relatable and accessible that like I wouldn't have sort of thought about that.
Well, I think with do you not think with like they're so tragic and there's so much sort of long awkward silences and the jokes about just I guess it's like the library, they want you back. It's those kind of I love those. I love those two. Yeah. So one day I want to write a song as good as a Flight of the Conchords song. Probably haven't done that yet, but you know, I think those two, Jesus, Sleepy Town Ontario, are the best that I've done so far.
Sorry, and the Small Town Ontario.
Yeah, I think those two are my the ones I feel best about.
What's your angle about Small Town Ontario?
It's like a kind of taking the piss of romanticizing Small Town Ontario and then just talking about like how there's nothing there. And, you know, I hope you really enjoy the view because it's the only thing there is to do. And like, you know, there's only 100 people and all of them are related. So it's just, yeah, it's like light kind of jab. And it actually works very well when I do it out of town. Like in the city, I did it at a comedy competition a while back. And like, they just did not like it. Like, and it was like, you know, when you start playing a song and you're halfway through and it's like, oh, well, I'm not getting through. It's not like stand-up where you can adjust. You're playing a song. I've started it. I'm going to finish this song.
Why do you think, though, like, I guess people like stuff about themselves. Is that it?
I guess they relate to it, yeah. Like, so I did a gig in Sunderland, like Ben Norman Davies produced it. I think it's called Legion. And it was a great show. Like, it was an audience of like 120, and it felt like the entire of this small town called Sunderland were at this show, and it was just such a warm, like, you know, an atmosphere of guys and women trying to have a good time, and yeah, like they related to it for sure. You could see it in their faces.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of jokes about incels, and then recently I just made some straight up like jokes about men, and you'd think like, well, women would like it, but maybe the men wouldn't. But I feel like men love jokes about men.
Only if we are incels, we won't like it.
I actually think, like, if I'm somewhere that's more incel-y, that it does better.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe they're like, haha, I'm not like that. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. Like sometimes it's fun to just, like, go for it. Go for the jugular. Like, if your parents are there, do jokes about your parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice just to be real, like, direct.
I really like Portlandia, and it's kind of...
What's that?
Like it's a TV show that does a lot of sketch about, like, hipsters.
Okay.
It takes place in Portland. It's... Oh, who's that guy from SNL? Okay, it's Carrie Brownstein, who was, like, a guitarist in a 90s band. And Fred Armiston, who's like really funny and also just like an audiophile. And so they're always they'll have like a feminist bookstore. And I just like, I find that really hilarious. But if I'm being honest, like they're kind of like, I'm kind of sometimes the target of what they're making fun of.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's why like I almost get it better because I get the nuance of the jokes.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to laugh at yourself sometimes, and yeah, I have to check myself if I start getting too ego-y and whatever. and because I feel more confident about comedy than other things in my life, and therefore everyone just thinks I'm like up my own ass. And I think, and sometimes it probably is true, and I have to be like, oh, okay, just like check yourself, boy.
But excuse me, you've been doing it for years, right?
Yeah.
So it seems to me natural that you'd have at this point like a certain level of comfort.
Well, otherwise I'd stop.
Yeah, like
So, yeah.
yeah.
You have to have a little bit of belief. Otherwise, like, what are you doing? I don't want to be one of those comics that's like does a joke and then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm dirt, you know? It's like I've seen it, especially like you see it sometimes them hosting mics and they'll just do comedy about how they're not good enough, and it's like, don't do that. Like, just always, believe. It's like sometimes, we don't always get it right. That's okay. But the stuff we've worked on, is probably quite good. If it's not, then what are you doing?
Were you doing comedy before you got to London?
No, that was when I started. Yeah,
Were you surprised that you got into it, or was it something you were always kind of looking to do?
It was quite random. So at university, I watched a lot of it when I had a bad time at university. I went to a uni called Lancaster Uni, and I didn't really connect with really anyone there. It was very like northern and a small town.
Okay, what's northern in England?
Well, there's the south where everyone is a bit like more posh and well-to-do on average, and then there's the north where they're a bit more rugged and they think all the southerners are soft.
Okay.
And it was very much like you're a soft southerner vibe, because I'm a southerner.
Yeah.
When I was up there. And also it was a very businessy university. There weren't like enough people that were really like me in terms of that artisty thing. So I was doing a lot of staying in my room listening to like Bill Hicks and stuff. So I was listening to
what
comedy.
Year was that? Or years?
It was a long time ago. It was like 2010,
Okay.
And that was before I ever did it. I never did stand up at uni or anything like that. And afterwards I moved to London, and I had a job. I didn't love it, but it was a paycheck.
What did you do in London?
So I was a journalist. I started as a reporter at a mortgage magazine, and it was reasonable, but it wasn't.
What does a mortgage magazine report about?
It was like the housing market and the state of the housing market. Sometimes it was interesting and sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like the financy side could be a bit boring.
Yeah, I could see like every few articles.
But then, I wrote a big thing about Brexit, and I really enjoyed that, like before we left, and sort of analysing it. And I was able to, when you're a journalist, you can suddenly speak to anyone, which is nice. So go and speak to like the European Commission or whatever. And so, I enjoyed some parts of it. Some parts I didn't enjoy, but I wasn't getting the artisty fix, which is what I was originally in journalism for. I thought maybe I'd be a games journalist originally.
What's a games
like
journalist?
A video games journalist.
Oh.
Because I love games.
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed video games. But
yeah.
What's your favorite, or what type of games?
I like indie games. So games that are made by like a few people and just weird, creative, offbeat kind of stuff. Like Outer Wilds is a game which features like a little mini solar system that you can explore, and it's kind of beautiful, and just stuff like that that's like totally different. Undertale was a classic. I don't know if you've ever played that, but it's a real kind of pixely game. It has some really, and it's like a sort of RPG, but you don't have to kill anyone.
RPG
you can
is
be
like
a pacifist.
Role player?
Yeah, and you just sort of, you're dropped in this kind of world of monsters, but then you can actually kind of befriend the monsters, and it has a real kind of campy vibe and really good writing, and so anything that's a bit different, I kind of connect with. I don't really, I did buy GTA 5 and I hated it. So some stuff. Like I hated everyone in it, and it just felt so like depressing and. So I don't love everything. Yeah, I'm not. Anyway, sorry. What was I talking about?
So
before?
you had thought about being a games journalist.
Oh yes, so I thought about that, and then I felt like I probably there's like no money doing that, and so I'd be struggling like forever.
Yeah.
And B, I felt like I was what games I was playing was a limited pool. So like for example, GTA, I don't like it. Yeah. And so that in Call of Duty, not really that interested, and so that kind of that limits you. And eventually, I was just looking for a job, and that was I found that job, and I was reasonable at it. But I needed something for the artistic fix, and then my brother's girlfriend of the time She's Rebecca Felgate. She still lives in Canada. She moved with my brother, and I saw her do comedy at Soho Theatre, which is this sort of fancy like left wing kind of club in the middle of London. And I thought it looked so much fun, and I was like, oh, I've got to do this. And yeah, applied, got in, and yeah, I was doing stuff with Soho Theatre for a while, and it was great. Yeah, gave me like a sense of belonging for like a while in London.
That's amazing. So you kind of found a place you loved.
Yeah, and it was at the time I was a bit depressed. To be fair, so I'd had this breakup that I wasn't handling it well. I was very into a girl as like a young guy, and then she got off with some disgusting other guy, like, and it really messed me up mentally, and so I needed a bit.
Had you had a bad breakup before?
No, I was saying I wasn't like mentally prepared for it. Yeah. And
it's
so
always
I had a lot of
when
feelings
you
to
don't
just
see
chuck
something
out.
coming, right?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, there were definitely massive signs, but I was young, so like, and I let it affect me more than it. I think it would now. It just wasn't, probably mature enough to deal with that.
Oh.
And so I had a lot to get out there, but that sort of explains why. Yeah, at the beginning I was way too dark because I just like wasn't mentally really okay, and comedy got better when I became a bit more well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
comedy
like
isn't therapy. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It sucks.
You're the therapist. You're supposed to be making the audience laugh, not.
Yeah, I was doing it for me, not for them. It's like absurd. Yeah. And you need to bring them in. And I didn't. So, but it's a core part of like who I am now. But I don't want anyone to watch any of the old stuff anymore.
I feel though like it's like essential. Like when you said, oh, I didn't do comedy in university, it's like, I don't want to hear anyone in university really do comedy, because I kind of want people to have had some kind of big failure in life, like where they surprised themselves by their behavior and then had to get out of it. Yeah. Because I think that process is so, like, you might be able to tell jokes and you have a good set here and there, but it's like having that broader wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to live life, don't you? I find that. So it was a period where I stopped doing comedy for a while. So it was after Edinburgh, and I'd had the fallout with that girl, and it felt like a bunch of the people that were my friends were moving in another direction. They're all doing stuff between them. I don't think they really wanted to do stuff with me anymore. And so I stopped partly just because I thought, well, I should live life, and it gave me time as well. That was when I started playing music then. So I played music later. I'm from a musical family, but I never actually really played when I was a kid. My parents met in a folk band, but I was so like intimidated by them at home that I basically never really played.
You were intimidated by your parents?
Yeah, like, because my dad's an amazing guitarist and my mum's an amazing singer. Like, and they're both better than me at both of those things, and they still are. But yeah, and I always felt like kind of I don't want to just sound crap,
Yeah.
And so it was only later when I went through this kind of period of like, all right, I'm not doing comedy now, and I played guitar for like just for pleasure and just to kind of as a mental health thing almost. And it was really good for that. Like, if anyone's like struggling, play some music. It really feels great, even if you're just doing basic chords, and singing feels really good.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people come out of childhood and like, even when they're still young, they're moving away from their hobbies because they're being practical, and they're like, well, I'm not going to do this as a job. But like, you need those things to do. You
don't have to. Yeah. I mean, my dad had a successful career as a salesperson and still continues to play music to this day. My parents are still going out and doing gigs.
I love that.
Yeah. So why not? No, I'm really, I almost left it too late, I felt like, but I mean, I guess it's never too late to have some basic music. You can sing, if you can play a few chords, you can do a lot with that. And yeah, I mean, that explains why my comedy songs generally aren't that complicated. Because I started late, and you need to focus on the words and the performance. And so yeah, I deliberately try and write everything to be kind of simple. But yeah, like music's brilliant. It made me feel so much better, like playing music, and then I just went out and experienced life for a couple of years. Didn't do any gigs at all. Came back and I felt a bit more calm about everything. Didn't feel so kind of like which is how I was feeling after Edinburgh. I was feeling burnt out. So yeah, I don't know if I have to do that again.
So at what point did you end up in Canada?
Yeah, 2019 I moved, as August 2019.
So that was after the dark period?
Which dark period?
Sorry, like there was, you were away from comedy for a bit.
Oh, my haunted past.
After which breakdown
but
did
now
you
I'm a hero.
move?
Prove them all wrong.
Finally, a depressed Brit makes it to Canada.
Yeah, so sorry, what was the question?
So it was after you'd taken the break from comedy and then gone back to it, and then you came here?
Yeah, so I thought I really wanted to move to Canada. I visited my brother, and I just really liked the friendliness of it. And then I came back to London, and I was like, oh, everyone feels so cold here, and I really want to go. And so I wanted to get a driving license first, just because I thought, well, it's just, it's North America. Public transport's kind of shit. There are no trains.
We're not.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I moved over. And before I moved, I thought, I'll just do a little bit of comedy here. And then actually that period of about 3 or 4 months before I moved, I just found it really great, actually, in London again. I was like, oh, actually it was better. I think I was just mentally in a bad place before. There are still nice people around. I still found nice experiences. But yeah, obviously I knew I was going. And I was going out and playing some songs. I had a British political song that I would do. So I met this girl who I sort of thought about dating, and then I progressively realized she was really right wing, and I wrote all about that in a song.
Yes.
And she knew loads of Conservative members of Parliament personally. It just got crazier and crazier. And she had them sending her, these creepy old men sending her messages on her phone, and I saw them, and it was weird and flirtatious and gross. And I was like, whoa, I can't deal with this. But yeah, that became a whole song. Obviously, when I came to Canada, had to drop that song. No one knows who the hell I'm talking about.
Fuck. I want to hear this song though.
Yeah, I'll try. I might try and bring it back.
I will not get the references, but maybe just broadly.
Yeah, it was. I think it was good, but I'd have to I haven't played it for years and years because I've lived here. It might be one to bring back for Edinburgh, honestly, because it was fun. Yeah. And it sort of explained how I felt with the emotion of it. So the nice thing about a song is you can kind of use the chords to elevate everything. So the feeling of shock or whatever with sort of things that she was saying, I had the chords go da 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 kind of thing.
I love it.
Yeah. And so yeah, there was that. And then I moved, and I thought I'd try my best to do as much as I could over here. And it was tough because, I sort of started to get a little bit of momentum, and then COVID happened. And after that, I didn't really want to do the Zoom thing. So I just thought I'd just go and experience lovely Canada and play more video games.
Did you try any Zoom comedy?
I did probably about half a dozen gigs. So not really. Was
it demoralizing?
I think demoralizing is a strong word. It wasn't for me.
Okay. And then
I don't want to shit on people that like it, because I know some people do. But yeah, I didn't love it. I need the live connection feeling, and I like the chaos of messing with the audience as well and doing stupid things with the crowd. And I can't do that on Zoom, really.
Yeah. So what kinds of stuff would you do to mess with the crowd?
Well, in England, I had a bit where I pretended to be a therapist, and I got them on a chair, and then I therapized them. And then it became a dream sequence. I get them to close their eyes, and I'd be like, "It's raining," and then I'd just flick water in their face, and and then I'd be like, "It's really windy," and I'd just go and I'd blow into their face, and it was that kind of stuff.
I think you have the right look to play a therapist.
Yeah, whatever they said, I always just decided that they were beyond my help. They were too messed up.
Yeah, because I think that's the one thing they can't say in therapy. You're just broken. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, you're beyond my help. Get out. Yeah. So I had that. I created a card game about COVID, and it was Ring of Fire, and every single whatever card they picked out, it was related to COVID. So it was, what was it? It was 5, which means, I don't know, you're alive, but next week you'll get COVID. It was all like that kind of shit.
Have you ever done dumpster fire?
Yeah, I did it, but not for ages. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like that's like a show I could see you on.
Yeah, well, happy to do any shows. Send me a message. So the COVID wasn't really for me. I just thought that was an opportunity to just live life.
That actually sounds like a good thing that you did, like to get out.
Don't
and
force
see some
it.
Shit.
Yeah. I mean, it was an opportunity.
And then when you
saw Manitoulin Island and all of the apple trees and none of the people really. Well, the lack,
That's so funny to hear someone mention Manitoulin Island. Like that's one of my childhood trips with my parents. Like.
Yeah, is it positive for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of quaint, isn't it? Yeah, I liked it. Some nice walking, doing some nice driving around there. Get on the ferry. It's all very quaint stuff. Yeah, a lot of Sleepy Town in Ontario was based around Manitoulin Island. Yeah. Nice.
Okay, I have to hear this song now. I should have got you to bring your guitar.
I'm really glad you didn't. This is so relaxing.
Have you seen the West Coast yet?
Yeah, I've been a couple of times. So another English friend of mine came on the 2-year visa, which is, English people, I can get a visa for 2 years very easily to come to Canada. And he was there. I stayed on his floor and I walked around Vancouver, cycled around the island and stuff. Yeah, I mean it's very pretty. Everyone looks very fancy over there, don't they? Very athletic, seemingly.
Yeah.
They look better than us.
I lived in Vancouver. I moved out there when I was still an indoor person, and it did to some extent get me to go outside and appreciate nature. And they have the best nature. Oh yeah,
it's fantastic. Yeah, so I did a really hard walk there, like the sea to the sky one, the one where you go up and there's a gondola at the top. Did you do that?
Is that Grouse Mountain? Or
no, I think Grouse Mountain's the one that's close to Vancouver, isn't it?
It's this one in the city.
No, this one is Squamish kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did that with my friend. He's quite a sporty guy, and it was 4 hours of hard walking. It was good. I felt great. A bit tough towards the end because I ran out of water, which is not a good place to be on a walk.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You want to be prepared.
Yeah, I got to the top and I was just down in water. 2 or 3 pints of it kind of thing, or glasses rather. Pints would be a lot. Yeah, it's spectacular. Yeah, no, I love it. I went up to Whistler one time to do expensive ski trip with my brother and my dad, which was amazing.
Yeah, that's the fanciest skiing one can do.
It's terrific. Yeah, I've done the Alps, so I can say it's world class. It's really good. It's beautiful as well because with the Alps you don't get all the trees when you're skiing, but the nice thing about skiing in BC is it's all beautiful and foresty, and you're almost going through the trees, and it just feels so right. Yeah.
Amazing. Worst part of Canada?
I mean, the cost of housing. And no, the worst part has been housing issues and sort of difficulties with housemates, and also the houses are built with very thin here, and so they can often hear you a lot, whereas I found when I was playing guitar and stuff in England, no one could really hear me, whereas here they can always hear me. Just kind of an uncomfortable feeling that you're just trying to kind of put out of your head because you need to be creative and doing your thing.
Yeah, because you mentioned before we started filming you've moved how many, once a year?
I've actually pretty much lost count. I've moved over once a year since I've lived here, yeah, for various reasons. Sometimes, there was one that I made into a song, and it was all about how I got bullied out of a house by this guy, and he turned everyone else against me, and it was always just over the most minor things. It was Ryan, you didn't wring out the sponge after you used it to mop. It was the most tiny things. I couldn't do anything right, And I've had the opposite. I've lived with people that were slobby, and then they were just leaving bags of chips everywhere, and it's why are you doing that? And you just put it in the bin like a normal person. So yeah, that's and the worst one of all was I was in this house and the neighbors were like literally like banging on the ceiling whenever I play guitar at any time. So it could be like in the middle of the day, or you'd be listening to like a podcast or something, and it would go to 11:01 and they'd be banging on the floor. Like
Shit.
those people were the worst. Like I wish hell for them. I know like some people are very like, oh, I love everyone. I hate some people.
Do you believe in karma?
No, not really.
I feel like I like everyone when I'm not interacting. You know, like it sometimes you have to like be going through something to remember how like shitty it is.
And most people
to
are
deal
nice,
with.
but those people are not good people. And they just aren't. Like no good people treats me like they did. Like they were such bullies, you know. And
Did you talk to them ever?
Yeah.
Like what was?
They were
what do you
weird.
think their problem was? Like what were they like?
Oh, they loved silence. But if you love silence, don't live in a bloody. No, they would. No, but they were mentally old.
Was it a couple?
Yeah, yeah.
A guy and a girl.
Yeah.
And they lived in the attic?
No, I lived at the bottom and they lived like above me, and so they would just be constantly banging on my ceiling whenever like, and it was just it was absurd. Like those people, and people would say kind of, oh, they can't be that bad, and they'd come and visit and they'd be like, oh yeah, I see what you mean, they're pretty bad. And yeah, I mean, like the first day I set a fire alarm off, and one of them kind of came in and like had a go at me, and I was like, well, it's actually my first day here. I'm not used to how it all operates. Yeah, no, I try to. That's a really bad memory, like living there.
Yeah.
Like, and that sort of stuck. It's hard. It's kind of hard to write music now because I kind of remember that time where every time I did make any noise at all, they were thumping on my ceiling. So,
what's your living situation now?
I live in a shared house now, and it's like my housemates are really nice. The only downside is like one of them is often up in weird times, and so like he wants me to be quiet until like the lunchtime ish, and which is I don't love, but you know,
yeah,
I've had worse. He's nice. Live with another girl who's a comic, and she's nice. So yeah, could be worse. I think long term, I want to live on my own, but right now I want to have money to do things. So I just went to Mexico, and it was lovely, and I need to be able to have the cash to go places and experience life. And yeah.
Whereabouts in Mexico did you go?
It was Oaxaca and Mexico City.
Nice.
So another comic, Jamie Glassman, she was going to a wedding in Oaxaca, and I used this as an opportunity to go to Oaxaca too. So I wasn't actually going to the wedding.
Did you go, like you traveled with her, but she...
No, we didn't. No, I just knew the date she was going, and she declared herself my best friend, and like she wasn't, but like I took it too seriously, and I was like, all right, Jamie, I'm going. And she's like, okay.
So you just followed Jamie to Mexico.
Yeah. I always wanted to go to Mexico, and so I was like, it'd be nice to have like somebody to go and like link up with and chat to, and like Jamie's like a great person. It was a great time. It was awesome. You know, you go doing our own thing. Then we occasionally met up, and I sort of hung with her wedding people, but I didn't actually have to go to the wedding, which is the perfect scenario for me.
That's amazing. What did you think of Mexico City?
Mexico City is a wild place. It's so kind of lively and enlivening, and I definitely have to go back and experience more of the party aspect of it, because I didn't really experience that side of it, but I think it's there in spades. You can feel the energy of it. Like I went to one street where there was a bunch of music stores, and they were all playing like bass as loud as possible to try and drown each other out on this one street. It was outstanding.
I love it.
Like that's so like non-Canadian, you know.
Yeah.
I love that kind of a Latin kind of like, yes, we're out, and that's got that energy to it, and you know, everyone's eating tacos everywhere. They're amazing. And yeah, I mean the worst thing about Mexico is there are too many other British people there, but apart from that, it was good.
Do you hate running into British people?
Yeah.
I
hate hearing our accent. I don't like it. I want to be the only one.
Can we? I'm curious about that dynamic. Like, where does that come from?
I mean, there's a reason I left England. We're quite a cold, harsh kind of people in a certain way. And when I was in England, I had my like people, had my little sort of group, and everyone else felt like dicks. Whereas here, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like half the people you speak to, they're probably going to be quite affable and nice and Canadian. They're not fucking British. And also, when you live here, suddenly just hearing the Canadian accent from everyone else just becomes the default. And you hear a British accent and you think, oh, here we go.
Oh, he's going to be a dick.
The British are here. It's like either they're posh and it's like, oh, you think they sound stuck up, or they're like common. You think, oh, it feels like it's not good. It's not good either way.
You've accepted all the negative stereotypes about British people.
Yeah,
you don't
like
any of them.
No. I mean, honestly, the British people in Mexico were some of the worst that I met. Like the best were, Americans were great. The ones who traveled, they were so like warm and lovely. And
I find like I think if I think of who I want to meet on vacation, it's interestingly Americans and Germans.
Why Germans?
I don't know. It might just be, okay, like I went on one trip where there was just, like, I went to this surf place in Portugal, and there was, the guy who ran it was German. And I don't know. And so all the people, there was, like, people from different regions of Germany. Then there was, like, Swiss German, like, Austrian, which is, like, German speaking. And everybody was fucking cool. But that might have just been, like, because they were all the kind of women who go to like a surf school in Portugal.
I mean, I've had a good experience with the Germans too, I'd say.
Like, would you say average, generally speaking, like fun, like open, up to stuff, interesting?
I think those are the ones. I mean, they can be they're famously a bit sort of like precise, aren't they? The Germans, like everything must start on time. And I think, the Austrians are a bit more relaxed, aren't they? In terms of the two, aren't the Austrians the slightly more kind of fun ones?
There were so few that I actually met that I can't.
But
the stereotype. But
the Germans are great. Like they're definitely, in terms of Europe, they've been leading the way in terms of like liberalism, and they sort of feel like the central part of the EU, really. So I've got love for the Germans. I've visited Germany a bunch, and I've like basically never visited France. So
I've actually also been to Germany, but not to France. Yeah. And I really would have said as a kid that France would be like the first place I'd go to.
Yeah, I think I've been harsh though. I think I should go to more France. Just probably don't go to Paris, because I think there's probably too many British people and they'll hate me. But they do things right, don't they? They have fresh bread everywhere. They have those like cheeses that you can choose from. I mean, being French must be pretty fucking awesome. Come on.
Yeah, I even think, like, I know there's people say like Paris is overrated, but I don't know. I just think those people are jaded.
I don't know.
But I've never been.
Oh, right. Well, here we are, two people talking about Paris, and neither of us have been.
But I also find it interesting that Americans are so nice when you meet them abroad.
Well, they're the ones that travel, aren't they?
So the good ones travel?
Yeah. I think the ones that, the problem is always the ones that don't travel. Like, they're the ones that vote Brexit, the ones that never go anywhere. Yeah. No, it's always like that, isn't it? They're willing to experience something outside their culture. They don't think that they're the only place. They experience somewhere else. They know that, the way it is in America isn't necessarily how it has to be everywhere. There's a reason they always think, like, America is the most free place, even though it clearly isn't. They've just not gone anywhere. You go to Scandinavia and, like, see how, like, free it is, And so, the ones that are traveling they're enlightened, aren't they? And the ones I spoke to, some of them were mixed, because I was talking about I don't want to go while Trump is in the White House, and some of them were defending America, and I was like, I get your point, but also still not going. Others were like totally understanding.
When Trump was in office the first time, me and my sister went on a trip. We like flew to Boston and then drove to Rhode Island, and I think we'd been like out of the car in Rhode Island for like an hour and a half when I heard the N-word for the first time in my life, like outside of a rap song.
Oh, I've heard it in London, actually, but yeah, never in Toronto. There was like
an old drunk man getting thrown off a bus, and he was yelling that word, and then he was like, "What kind of world is it where a black man can tell a white man to get off the bus?" Was it the bus driver? And it was. And I'm not saying it was like I know I can't prove it was because Trump was in office, but I feel like
Just giving those people a voice, hasn't
he
it?
was
emboldening
a certain element.
Yeah, no, totally. No, I mean, obviously some Americans are the most liberal and like beautiful people you've ever met. But yeah, it's hard to, you can't really go visit that country when 77 million voted for a fascist. I don't think.
Do you have any like sense that it'll normalize, and like how much do you think it is like social media?
Yeah, social media is a big part of it, isn't it? It's radicalizing young people, which I think is a big problem. I don't know if it's going to normalize. The problem with the US is, they keep cutting education, and if education is lower, then people are more likely to fall for that stuff, aren't they? I'm hoping that Canada will be better. I think people are generally a bit smarter here. But I guess we'll find out in a what is it, month or two's time. Yeah. I'm really hoping that Carney will win. I think he's a really good candidate in terms of, he's mildly on the left, but not that much that he's going to piss off like the centre right. The left have been brandished as being bad with money since like in recent years. That's partly why they keep losing, I think, across the world. And he clearly is like a financial expert. In terms, he was a good governor of the Bank of England, and I think I can say that as an English person. Like,
do you remember him? Like,
I actually met him briefly. Yeah, I met your Prime Minister.
Where did you meet him?
He was giving a speech in London when he was governor of the Bank of England, and it was very technical. He wasn't really pulling the Mark Carney charm. It was very like serious, and yeah, I saw him afterwards and tried to get a picture with him, and he said, "Do you not have enough pictures?" And I went, "All right, Mark." So that's the only interaction I had with the guy. But no, I remember he was quite a short guy. Like, it surprised me. You think of everyone being quite tall.
Yeah.
When you see him.
How tall are you? I'm
5'11", and yeah, he was like a decent bit shorter than me. But no, I think he's super smart, and I'm of the opinion that you don't need anyone that radical. You just need people that are vaguely gonna harbour some progress. As long as they're not doing really bad things, politicians, I'm okay with them. Because in England, it just felt like one after another would just do a stupid, like, ideological right wing thing, like Liz Truss being the final straw on that. I was like, oh, let's just what was they did her mini budget? Did you read about that? Like, it was just basically kind of let the rich be a little bit richer, and that will somehow stimulate the economy. And it made so little sense that even the markets rejected it.
Fuck.
Yeah, and then she drove the pound down to like a really low. So I was struggling because I earned money in pounds. I was like, "Fuck you, rich Liz Truss." And she's
it's personal trust.
Yeah, she there was that whole you see the lettuce campaign. It was like the Daily Star. They had like a lettuce, and they were like, "Who's going to go first, like the lettuce or Liz Truss?"
Was that the long or the shortest anyone was ever?
Yeah. Oddly enough, she was PM when the Queen died, but and then just everything. She was just totally incompetent and ideological, and she's what happens when the libertarians take control. The libertarianism is the most childlike, stupid philosophy ever. And
like all the people I'm deeply
bleeding into everything.
Against. And it's a weird thing because they have a way of like convincing people they're smart.
It's like taxes, theft. Fuck off. You're part of this society.
And the way of framing things that everything is somehow theft, and just not like a
it's like a 10-year-old philosophy. Like someone
works.
I'd expect a child to believe before they actually learn about how the world works.
Yeah.
And it's utterly pathetic. And I think Britain has become more like that.
I think of like, because I studied politics in school, and I remember like a lot of my friends would come to me because they were voting for the first time, and I'd give them advice like, this is how the system works, these are the different parties, and I never wanted to tell anyone what to vote. And I feel like libertarianism is where some people go first, and even dum-dums get out of it fairly easily. Like, you don't have to go far to realize it's too narrow to work. And people who get stuck on it are always dicks. Like, that's the thing that makes you that.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that really believes in that, you think, like, seriously? Yeah, to me. Like, I just don't want to even engage with it.
And it's weird because like I'm very progressive, but I can get along with people who are like conservative on a values level.
On some things, conservatism isn't always terrible.
And a lot of the time, like, just a conservative mentality, like some people just have one. And it's fine.
You try and relate to people and you try and think, oh, why might you think that? Oh, okay, I get that. But there's lots of different parts of conservatism and some are definitely worse than others. But yeah, that was actually, I saw the kind of, I did a right-wing comedy show once. It was in England, and
so everyone was right-wing on it?
Apart from me.
And you were like, I'll show up too.
No, it was funny. So when I was in England, my comedy tutor was a guy called Andrew Doyle, and he was really funny and really edgy, like a gay comic, really good. Saw him a few times, and then I think Brexit almost kind of radicalized him. He was, and he had this character called Jonathan Pye. I don't know if you saw it. Probably not. Maybe it didn't like travel over here, but he was a kind of left-wing sort of reporter character that would rant about stuff. And then he did a thing about Trump where he kind of blamed it on the left for Trump getting in office. And that seemed to like be the start of how this guy just went completely like bananas. And suddenly everything he was doing was about like free speech and uncensored comedy. And yeah, I did this show called Comedy Unleashed, which, and at the beginning I said I was a journalist and the crowd booed me. It was quite a vibe. Yeah. And yeah, after that there was some guy I think it's a show that basically platforms people that have been deplatformed. So like if Graham Linehan, if you know him, like the former writer of Father Ted, IT Crowd, who fell down the anti-trans like rabbit hole and made it his whole personality.
Fuck.
And he's been on that show.
So it's like
so I have something in common with that guy.
So like people who've been cancelled go on there to like defend themselves?
Well, no, it's not really to defend themselves. It's more to entertain the crowd who are all the same kind of people.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I got you.
Like there was another one where there was a guy, he taught his dog to give a Hitler salute when he said gas the Jews.
Oh,
and that was like a whole thing. That was a news story. And they were all like, it was just a joke, you know? And so he was on the show. And all he did was just talk about how like the Labour Party were all a bunch of Marxists, which they aren't. So it was like, yeah, it was weird. So my comedy tutor, that teacher, has since been on Joe Rogan's podcast.
So did he get you on the Right Wing podcast?
Like, no, it wasn't a podcast. I was on his show, which was Comedy Unleashed.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, I mean, we were friends.
When you met him, he became your
mentor. He was always very edgy, but I liked that part of him. He was rebellious, and that was initially that was quite like fun. So when we went to Edinburgh, he'd get us into like backstage stuff, like even when we were just going as like an audience, and we'd go down these kind of weird sort of cult like corridors and and suddenly we'd be with all of like the other comics, and he loved it. He loved just kind of, it's like fuck these kind of people, they're up themselves, come and mingle, you know?
Yeah.
And that was really fun. But yeah, he's sort of it all took a turn, and and now he's written like 3 books about like free speech and
what's
stuff.
His name?
Andrew Doyle. It's funny how sometimes just one little thing and it sort of tips, and they just keep doubling down, and yeah, it's weird seeing that from afar.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, he was my friend, you know? Yeah. I've always joking to people when I'm doing comedy courses here. Like I did Dan Gallia's one, Comedy Bar, and it's like great. And I was saying kind of, you know, you could be the next Andrew Doyle then.
Oh.
You can become a right-wing comedian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's now a news anchor on GB News, actually, which is like Andrew. The UK's answer to Fox News.
Oh fuck.
So like, yeah, it's gone full circle. So
Do you think it's just because a lot of comics have ADHD and people with ADHD are like sensitive to criticism, so when they receive criticism they can't learn from it, so
feels like an excuse.
just...
I don't know. Are people with ADHD sensitive to criticism? I don't know. I think I've known a few and I've criticized them and they've listened.
Yeah, and you can be sensitive to something and still handle it.
Yeah, like they get annoyed and then maybe
like
later on.
We both have anxiety issues, but we do comedy.
Yeah, true. No, I don't want to label people with ADHD as really being any different. I think it's more of a kind of your mind bouncing around thing, isn't it? But no, you got to take criticism, otherwise how do you grow? And sometimes criticism is wrong. Like I did a chart comedy sequence once. A woman burst into tears. It was absolutely bullshit. Like, I've done that 20 times. Nobody else has got upset. This is a you problem. But like,
so you made her cry.
Yeah.
So you're kind of doing like essentially. I know you're doing your chart thing, but it's essentially just crowd work, right?
No, it's comedy like sequence. It's always sort of the same. I might like slightly change bits as I just vibe with it in the moment. But no, it was the bit where like I'm rating dates in a kind of ludicrous way, and she was like, "How dare you judge women? It would be so much better if you did this about men." I was like, "Well, it doesn't make sense to do it about men. I'm not gay, so why would I be doing it about men?" And it was so silly. How can you possibly be upset by this? And yeah, so it wasn't nice. It felt horrible, but I think like she just had some bad times, saw me, and they triggered it. You know?
Yeah.
Is that my fault if you do a gig and 99 out of 100 really like it and one bursts into tears? You know?
Yeah. No, I think it's something like everyone goes through. Like some comics more than others because they're more like...
Yeah, I've been triggered by stuff like seeing other people like doing, like if I see people do like comedy about cheating on other people, like it upsets me because it happened to me.
Yeah, so it's not.
So like I feel it, but I don't. Yeah, but I don't like. I don't burst into tears in front of them and tell them they're a bad person.
The thing is, sometimes one time like what I'm sensitive to is like people being bullied. So one time there was like a comic doing some crowd work, but I felt like he was being rude to people in the audience, and I heckled him, which I've never done, but I was like, "Shut up, get off the stage."
Wow,
like...
yeah, you must have really pissed you off.
So I do kind of think anyone could, even trying to be a normal audience member, could end up yelling at the comic. Sure,
if it goes far enough, yeah. Yeah, I basically never really do, but even if I am annoyed, I just leave.
Yeah.
Like, I know the worst comedian I ever saw was a guy called Dominic Holland, and he's Tom Holland's dad.
What?
Yeah, and it was the show was meant to be about how Tom Holland had surpassed him.
Yeah,
and that 5 minutes of comedy about that thing was great, and the rest was just like terrible. It was all like, women, they're different from us, aren't they? They're just like got lots of emotions and stuff. And I was sitting in this like theatre. I wanted to leave. I couldn't because there was this guy on my right. He was really smelly as well, this guy, which kind of completed the feeling of just like, oh, this is the worst. So yeah, I think I saw his whole Edinburgh show, and then in Edinburgh they have a bucket at the door and you give money at the end, and yeah, if they stand at the door to try and guilt you into giving money, and I sure as fucking hell wasn't going to give him money. That was the worst.
Did you tell off Tom Holland's dad?
No, I didn't say anything. I didn't even heckle him. But he it was terrible. I can see where all the talent in that family went.
That's amazing. Okay, we've gone over with time.
Okay.
But did you want to plug anything? Like, when are you going to be in Edinburgh?
Yeah, so I'm doing the Edinburgh Fringe. It's I'm doing the first half of the Fringe because it's such a long festival. It's 25 days. So I'm just doing 12 dates. I think the 31st of July to the 12th of August. The show, I think, is going to be called Fuck This, I'm Moving to Canada. And yeah, it's going to be like a one-man show around Cowgate, the area, which is generally where a lot of Edinburgh happens. And yeah, it should be fun. You know, I'll come and I'll do a mixture of all my stuff, and I'll try and tell that story of why I moved, and hopefully that will connect with some British people. And yeah, if some Canadians do come and see it, that would be lovely, because I need my Canadian comfort blanket. You know, it's hard with other British people. You know, it's like British people are harsh, and two harsh people in the room. It's like, yeah, it stings. I need that warm Canadian feel. It's gonna be hard.
I love it. Thanks so much for coming on, Ryan.
Cheers.